The absolute brutality of how quickly so many pieces fell, especially in ways I wasn't expecting, leaves me just with my jaw on the floor with this week's episode of Ishura. You know, in any other show, I really feel like that double kill with Starr Runner, would have been the highlight. But the fact that whether it's with Magpie versus Sodo, just the numerous farewells, like, how do you even pick a specific point to say, damn, that's the craziest thing? Because honestly, it's a coin toss, especially between Starr Runner saving his friend by shooting that blind girl in the back, which he's absolutely furious about. He never wanted that to happen at all. Or a boy who just, I really thought was good, but Sodo just be built different. It isn't about the blade, it's about what he wields being that strong. Like, holy. Have a full live reaction to this week's episode of Ishura over on my Patreon if you want to see my full uncut thoughts. They're over there if you're interested alongside all these episodes. Like, it's wild how this show has actually managed to be a battle royale isekai, but not use the formula you've ever seen, like you always see with these shows, which is, oh, it's usually a tournament, or, you know, that's how the people are gonna fall. Instead, what they decided to do was they had half of the cast come from different worlds, they're travelers, half the cast born into this current world, the politics stories of wars and who's trying to tackle power and who's gonna connect with who's using different characters. Most of these people really just want, or at least a good majority of them just want to fight strong people. Some want a relaxing life, and has turned out to be anything other. But the idea of what we saw with this episode and just, you know, this arc in general with how it's all kind of come together and how we've lost like half the characters. Like, after barely hurting any of these characters, how quickly they all fall, because when you throw a bunch of highly trained killers against each other, I mean, if they have bloodlust for the other, I mean, one of them's dying, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I think what's really beautiful about what they did when you look at how the Wyvern fight was in last episode, I really thought this Wyvern was going to be okay. Like, I thought he was wounded, but I didn't think he was like dead and gonna die for the count. No, he goes back, and it's surprisingly emotional because what we know about these two in terms of their connection, in terms of where they were both found, like, they needed each other and they were there for each other, and, you know, they almost had a second chance at life. And to see this man pop up and just how quickly, like, there's no baits, there's no like, oh, if he actually had an intent to kill, he should have fired, but he didn't because he had these. No, like, he fires. And the idea, I thought it was his bullet went through the neck and then went through her as well. Turns out Starr Runner's in the back, and he repays favors. He makes sure that his friend's alive, no matter how much his friend is saying, I absolutely despise you, you piece of shit. And I'm like when they're going to touch each other, you know it's not going to happen. And then the fact that after he's pretty much dead, she does reach, and I'm like, out of everything we've seen in this show, I think some of the deaths and some of, you know, what we've seen, you can definitely say they deserve better. I mean, the general masses that have been buried underneath rubble and fire, of course, deserve better. But if we're looking at a personal story that we've had a connection with, she deserved so much better. And I don't think there's a character who deserved it more, if I'm being honest. I mean, she just was innocent, she was pure, and just, it was heartbreaking. But, like, the stuff at the end with Magpie, right? He is talented. Like, sure, he couldn't cut through the metal of the spider mech, right? But he did cut her head off. He was talented. This girl continued to have bloodlust to kill, and at any point he could have cut her head off. It didn't even cross my mind that she was buying time in hopes for Sodo to come in and obviously kill him, because her acting was spot on, because she has a legit reason to be that emotional and distraught. And when he comes in, you can't deny how badass that death scene was. Like, there's a reason why he's not even upset with his death. Like, he realizes he's about to die, and he has a smile on his face, because he was under the assumption, you know, it has to be his blade that cut through that. It's not him, it's the blade. His blade is, it's garbage looking. There's cuts, there's bumps, there's scrapes, it's probably rusty. The blade doesn't look strong, but it seems more to be like himself. Like, that's it. And the idea of like it's almost like predicting the future is how they explain it. So it's falling down and he's able to grab it from behind his back to then cut him. And he does do it. Unfortunately, it barely makes a dent. Like, it hardly does anything. And then the fact that he pulls his own blade to cut his arm off, I'm like, oh boy. I think most of us, when we first jumped into the show, knowing what it wanted to be, we're like, okay, don't get connected to the characters because a lot of them are probably going to fall. But then they really get you with each of these personal episodes to understand them. Then we start understanding the political side more and how it's all interlinked. And then it's like, it's weird because I said it last week, I was rooting for Spider-Mech to win. That's who I wanted to win. But after I see him get the W, I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of rooting for him to beat Sodo. I didn't really know which one I preferred on a personality level. I think they're pretty equal, but I'm like, this dude's kind of proven himself to be quite the interesting character, and I like his personality. And it's just, I think at this point, I just shouldn't root for the character I hope lives, because they're probably going to get their head cut off or body decapitated. That's what I'm learning about this. So, Kia, please kill Kia. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and hopefully she makes it out. But, like, what do you even say? I'm really surprised by this show. I expected to enjoy it. I mean, it was very weird with how it started in the first couple of episodes, but, like, I'm actually impressed with how far it's gone. And the fact that they didn't just throw 12 characters trying to kill each other for a title, like, I thought that's what it was going to be, and I was ready for that, because you don't really get a lot of battle royales anyway anymore, so it's like, it's kind of fun to watch one and just kind of kick back and relax to, but they actually did a really good political story, and it's like, anytime two characters are looking at each other and we know they're killers, I'm like, well, one of them's dying. I just don't even know where we go. We have one episode left, and it feels like we've reached kind of like the halfway point of whatever this first arc wants to be. I doubt we see a season 2, but I will be crossing my fingers. Hell, they could surprise us with a surprise split core or a season 2 announcement. Who knows? But either way, whether this season ends with a couple of characters left alive, staring at the rubble before them, not knowing the situation and where it'll go from here, I still very much enjoyed seeing how political conflicts were interlinking and chasing after power, allies here and there, and the fact that by the end of this episode, we actually got to have a conversation between two travelers, one of which is kind of like almost reminiscent about the old world, the other saying, I would never want to go back there if you pointed a gun at my head. So it's like, this was good. I definitely underestimated how, damaged that Wyvern was when he retreated, but, silly me for saying that, both of them got out of there alive because Starr Runner had other priorities. And I knew he was watching him, so I knew he was going to pop up. I just wasn't expecting that shot to go off the way it did, but... Also, side note, when Taryn was staring down that skeleton, the show has got me so paranoid, even though I was like, oh, they're allies here, I was just waiting for him to cut her down, because that's just what the show does to me anymore. I just can't trust anything. Let me know what you thought of this week's episode of Ishura, and how do you hope to see a wrap-up next week? Let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here, of course, ring that bell so you get notified when I upload more. Like I mentioned, we had that full live reaction over on my Patreon, and hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. So, alright, so today we have Ryan Kahalili, Future Hamster, Jamie Stout, Roland Vermilgio, Bob Johnson, and Uharu Kazari. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.